Since I started my professional career in sustainability in 2011, I've really seen a remarkable change in just the level of depth and breadth of the topics that we're tackling. Just some of the basic understandings of sustainability, what even is ESG as an acronym, but like what are the subtenants and like what kind of goals should progressive companies take. It's really quite remarkable in 2023 to see how it's really grown and expanded. I think the primary motivation for companies and certainly for Vontier is stakeholders, and that's from investors to communities to your employees. It's really individuals at large that are hungry and interested to know how your company is trying to make a positive impact in the world. As a first step, materiality, right? So really basic understanding of what's important and to whom. So I think the best process in understanding materiality is through Datamaran. I really do mean that in the fact that it is really just a simple X and Y plotting for like the critical topics to internal and external stakeholders, simplify it down and understand what are those critical impact categories. For lack of better words, I sometimes say like, what are the things you can't not do to be seen as credible in sustainability and ESG? So I think Vontier, we look at risks and opportunities really based upon emerging trends over like maybe a quarter or maybe 2 quarters versus like a year. And if we're seeing a topic that continues to increase in importance, it's like, do we have a policy, a position, an initiative in that space, as well as identifying what might be some short-term interesting areas that we need to take note of as an organization. And really be able to say that we have a point of view at that and continue to monitor and track it to see how that topic plays out in the quarter or year to come. So before using Datamaran at another organization, we completed some materiality assessments. Probably wasn't as robust. There's not the internal AI. You're not comparing against peer companies. So it is getting a rough idea from internal and external stakeholders, but it's certainly not the level of depth and breadth. So as I say, sometimes it's that snapshot, but it doesn't give you sort of that long-term understanding of that topic. So identifying emerging issues, through materiality assessments is really helpful for a variety of stakeholders, certainly internally. So, whether we're looking at sustainability and ESG or governance, our HR team, certainly our C-suite and even our board, just understanding these are the types of topics that continue to rise in level of importance, and that we want to make sure that we aren't just answering it, that we have a really robust understanding of the topic and how our company is addressing it and actually improving in those spaces. I think that the greatest challenge, I would say, if you're not tracking these, is that if there's a topic that continues to increase in importance, you're going to be on your back foot, and then you're going to be constantly scrambling and figuring out, how do we, address this in a really fast fashion. And I really think that, based on this, the level of interest and really the importance of it, it requires, time and space and thinking through it really strategically versus a retroactive, quick fix. What I appreciate about Datamaran and having that sort of like quarterly cadence, it gets people understanding that this is an activity that we're going to continually do every quarter. And so it gets people thinking about how is materiality continually being looked at every quarter, whether it's at our C-suite conversations in an ESG working group, even at our board level. Yeah, so if it's looking at our peers, looking at regulators, it's all important, but it's like getting into that level of detail and understanding who's talking about it, what are they talking about it, how are they addressing it. And I think without having a tool, I think it becomes really a tedious, activity, something that could take, weeks to really understand what we're doing. And by, having Datamaran, we get that quick snapshot and we can dig deeper into those topics as appropriate. Yeah, at Vontier, we really work cross-functionally, in the sustainability and ESG space. We are a small but mighty team, so we really do need to have those connections to other departments to really be effective in driving those critical topics into like real activities that we can see progress against in real time. Yeah, I'd say it's early days, but the sustainability and ESG team at Vontier is really integrated into the business. We communicate up through our chief general counsel, up to our board, and so having that level of exposure has been really important to say, what are the types of topics we need to be aware of, and then how do we start tracking this and building it into the business? We've been really intentional that this is part of the organization and it's not bolted on at the end, and so that's been really helpful. We're building processes very carefully, but I think it really is a wide stakeholder consultation and how we build the programs, the goals, and that it's really multi-stakeholder input, and certainly Datamaran has that ability to provide that insight to help inform, like bring the outside in, help us understand what good looks like, and then how do we inform policies with other key stakeholders internally. I think there can be the challenge or the thinking we need to do everything, But what I love is that high value targeting. Like, what's those like critical 3 to 5 topics that we really want to drive and be a leader in. And so I think having Datamaran help us identify and track those key topics really helps refocus energy and make sure that we're making progress on the most critical topics. When we talk about greenwashing, I think what's really served me personally in this space is just sharing with your stakeholders, like, what are you really proud of? What are we doing well right now that we would love to share with our different stakeholders, and what are we really challenged with? Like, I think more and more, whether it's customers, suppliers, employees, people expect you to be honest, not perfect. And I think having that level of humility and bring people along the journey helps avoid that greenwashing, that it's not always going to be buttoned up and perfect, but we all can learn by just sharing where we're at.